Welcome back to the Sports News Analysis YouTube page where I'm previewing every single game here of Week 16 in the NFL. So be sure to subscribe to my page here on YouTube to get all the previews and also all of my daily sports talk videos delivered directly to your inbox on a daily basis. The New England Patriots are going to travel down to Jacksonville to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, these two teams headed in two totally different directions. The Patriots at 10-4, having sewed up the AFC East title, looking to better position themselves for a playoff run. And the Jaguars at 2-12, basically at this point, getting ready to play out the string here and getting ready for the offseason and the draft and those kinds of things. And what has been just a dreadful season for the Jaguars on many levels. The Patriots come into this game having lost last week to the 49ers by a score of 41-34. They were down 31-3 in this game. They came back, tied it, and then at the end, the 49ers pulled away to win it again 41-34. You saw a little bit of fight in the Patriots last week in the fact that they did come back. I think what you saw, though, is that defense against a good offense, against an offense that can do some different things. There's a little bit of a diverse attack and an offense that didn't make any mistakes. I think you saw just how bad that Patriots defense can be. The Patriots defense is opportunistic, don't get me wrong. They're great at forcing turnovers. They're great on cashing in those turnovers. But what you see is if they face a team that has a little bit of explosiveness on offense and that takes care of the ball, their defense has tons of trouble against a team like that. And give Kaepernick credit. I mean, to go in there with the bad weather on the road into Foxborough and throw 4 touchdowns. I mean, the kid had a hell of a game, and I know he showed me a lot. I'm a guy who's been critical of him, and he showed me a lot. But, back to the Patriots moving forward here. They're at 10-4. They still have a shot to get that 2 seed in the AFC. In my mind, the Texans will win one of their last 2 games and sew up that 1 seed in the AFC. The Broncos sit right now at 11-3, 1 game up on the Patriots, but the Patriots beat them earlier in the season. So if the Patriots can win out, if they can beat Jacksonville this week, which I fully expect, if they can beat Miami next week, which I fully expect, and the Broncos drop one of their last 2 games, the Patriots would then move into that 2nd seed and get that all-important bye in the playoffs. So the Patriots usually play all their guys anyway till the end of the season, but it looks like this year they're absolutely going to need to heading down the stretch here. And look, the Patriots in this game, they're not going to have any problems. You won't see any of their weaknesses kind of exposed. But I think what you see is they need to get Gronkowski back healthy and get him going, because against games when they face good defenses, okay, they can't afford to have any of their weapons out. A lot of their offensive success is based on the fact that they have so many weapons, and they kind of unload that arsenal of weapons on the linebackers and on the safeties of these teams. And when you have Woodhead, Gronkowski, Hernandez, and Welker, all 4 of those guys on the field at the same time creating mismatches, that's really when the Patriots and Brady are at their best. And you see the loss of Gronkowski hurt against a team like the 49ers, a team that has a great linebacking core and that can get pressure on the quarterback without blitzing. So I think getting Gronkowski back and getting him right before the playoffs is obviously huge. You saw the impact that a not healthy Gronkowski had in the Super Bowl last year. So I think when he comes back, the Patriots will kind of be all pistons firing. Again, I don't think anything that'll affect them in this game too much, but they need to get their outside receivers going. They've been looking for Brandon Lloyd more in the last couple of weeks. I think if they can at least make teams worry about their outside receivers, that will give them a tremendous advantage as well. In the last 2 or 3 years, when Deion Branch was really their best outside threat, if you even want to call him that, I think again the better teams start pressuring Brady up the middle and start really bottling up that middle of the field where those 4 guys I mentioned before like to roam. So I think Lloyd's a big key, Gronkowski's a big key, and their defense just being good enough. Their defense maybe forcing 1 or 2 turnovers a game. Their defense tightening up in the red zone, and maybe instead of allowing 4 touchdowns a game, 2 of those touchdowns become field goals. Any little sliver that they can give their offense is obviously does the Patriots a world of good, because let's face it, they have one of the top 3, if not the best quarterback of all time, leading their offense. So their defense doesn't need to be great. Stephen Ridley had some fumble problems last week. I don't know if that was a product of the weather or if that's something to be concerned about. He's had a great season, but one thing we know Belichick won't stand for is fumbling. So we'll monitor that going forward. I think Ridley's earned a kind of another shot, but if he falters again, look to see more of Shane Vereen and maybe even Danny Woodhead carrying the ball. As far as the Jaguars go, look, they're at 2-12. Their second-year quarterback Blaine Gabbert has been sidelined for quite some time now with an injury. I think that's what I think is the problem from this season, is they're having a tough season. And one thing you always see from teams is, okay, we're having a tough year, but hey, look, we're getting this young quarterback all these reps, and he'll be better now for it next year. But they're spinning their wheels right now. I mean, they don't have their young quarterback. They don't really have many good players anywhere on the field. I mean, it's pretty sad actually watching this team play. I put them in a category of like with the Chiefs, okay, the Jaguars, and to a certain extent the Cardinals. But at least the Cardinals have 5 wins. These other 2 teams are just dreadful. I mean, especially the Jaguars. Their talent is at a bare minimum. They're without Jones-Drew, obviously, which is a big loss. He's by far and away their best player. We look for the Jaguars in the offseason. They're in a really strange spot because they pick at the top of the draft. It doesn't look like there's any quarterbacks that would warrant, right now at least, a top 2 or 3 pick in the draft. Do they go forward with Gabbert? Do they go in a different direction? It's kind of a weird situation because you haven't even seen that much from Gabbert to even judge him on. So I kind of think they have since they spent such a high pick on him, they at least got to give him next year. So we'll see how that goes. But overall, the Patriots are favored by 14.5 in this game. I see no reason why they shouldn't win by a lot more than 14.5 and by 14.5 in this game. The Jaguars only scored 3 points last week against the Dolphins. So if this was a better offensive team, maybe I'd be a little bit worried about the Patriots covering. But the Jaguars they're just an awful team right now. I don't mean anything personal. They're playing hard, but their talent level is just nowhere near the Patriots right now. So I like the Patriots minus 14.5 to win this week and get to 11-4 and potentially make this AFC playoff picture a little bit more exciting here as far as battling the Broncos out for that second seed. So again, Patriots minus 14.5 on the road in Jacksonville. Be sure to hit me up again on Twitter if you want to, at SNewsAnalysis. That's at SNewsAnalysis. Hit me up in the YouTube comments. And as always, hey, subscribe to my page. I'll give you sports talk 365 days a year on a daily basis. Thank you, and have a good night.